Ever feel like you're kind of just drifting along? Letting life happen to you instead of really taking charge and making those choices that actually shape who you become.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Right. But imagine if we could flip the script on that, really grab the reins and steer toward, I don't know, a future where we're not just older, but actually like a better, more evolved version of
I
ourselves.
like that. A better, more evolved version.
Exactly. That's exactly what this deep dive is all about, intentional growth through the lens of soul. It really digs into this idea that understanding the different parts of ourselves, that inner landscape, it's crucial to making that happen.
Yeah, it's not about some external force dictating our growth, but about understanding what's going on inside.
Right. It's like we've got this whole inner crew, the soul, the spirit, the ego, even the heart gets involved. But they don't always work together, do they?
Definitely not. That's like having a team where nobody's quite sure what their role is, chaos.
Exactly. So to get intentional about our growth, we have to start by getting to know this crew a little better. What do you say? Where do we even begin with all of that?
And I think that's what's so crucial about Vecchio's message here. It talks about the soul being this wise observer, almost like the silent CEO of your being. It's the unchanging you, the core essence.
Okay, so the soul's taking it all in, but then there's a spirit. Where does that fit into the team?
If the soul's the observer, the spirit's all about feeling. It's where our emotions come from, the passions, that gut instinct that tells you if something's right or wrong. It's the energy driving our experiences.
Okay, so we've got the soul observing, spirit feeling, and then we add in the heart. Is this where it gets all follow your bliss?
You're getting warmer. Think of the heart as this internal compass guiding you toward a life that truly resonates with your purpose. It speaks through compassion, through authenticity, this deep inner knowing that often goes beyond pure logic.
I love that. The heart as this inner compass. It's like sometimes you just know something's right, even if your head can't explain it yet. But what about the ego? Everyone's always talking about silence the ego, silence the ego. Is it really the villain it's made out to be?
It definitely gets a bad rap. And I think that's what's so crucial about Vecchio's message here. It presents it more as an adaptive function, something that helps us make sense of the world, develop a sense of self, interact with others. The key, like with so many things, is balance.
Okay, I have to admit, I'm a little skeptical. We've all been tripped up by our egos at some point, right? How does that actually help us grow?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Break the ego down into these 4 different lenses, almost like roles it plays. The counselor, the critic, the mediator, and of course the one we all love to hate, the bully.
Hold on, so it's not just one ego, it's like a whole team within the team.
Exactly. Each of these lenses serves a purpose.
Okay, I'm kind of curious now. Tell me more about these lenses.
Well, you've got the counselor, always giving advice, helping you weigh decisions. Then there's the critic, always pointing out areas for improvement. And the mediator, that's the one who steps in when there's conflict, tries to find a peaceful resolution.
Okay, I can see how those could be useful, maybe even necessary sometimes. But what about that inner critic? That voice that's always telling you you're not good enough, not thin enough, not pause enough. How can that be helpful for growth?
See, that's the thing. Sometimes the critic's delivery needs a little work. What if, instead of that harsh, judgmental tone, it learned to offer feedback with a little more kindness, a bit more encouragement? Maybe that inner critic is trying to help you grow. It just hasn't quite mastered, like, constructive criticism yet.
Okay, you're really giving me a new perspective on my inner critic here. Maybe it's not out to sabotage me after all, but what about that mediator? How does that lens help us grow?
Yeah, the mediator's interesting, isn't it? Almost like the part of us that seeks harmony both within ourselves and in our relationships with others. And you're right, that bully lens, well, it can definitely be tricky.
Tricky is an understatement. Sometimes it feels like the inner bully just takes over completely. What's the point of that? And how do we even begin to make it work for us instead of against us?
Well, the bully, just like those other lenses, it's actually trying to protect us, but it's coming from a place of fear and insecurity. It's like it's building these walls, trying to shield us from getting hurt or rejected, so it lashes out, tries to control the situation. But if we're not careful, that inner bully can really wreck our relationships and hold us back from growth.
Big time. So knowing about these different lenses, that's key.
It's huge. It's not about trying to wipe out our ego completely, but about recognizing, okay, which lens is driving the bus right now? Once you see that, then you can start making different choices.
But where does the heart fit in with all of this? You said it's the soul's preferred perspective. That's such a cool concept.
Right. Remember how we were saying the soul's the observer, the spirit's all feeling? Well, the heart's like the bridge between them. It's where we tap into our deepest truths, values, that gut intuition.
So it's not just about getting swept away by our emotions. It's like accessing a different type of wisdom altogether.
You got it. It's listening to that quiet voice inside that just knows what's right for you, even when it's scary or goes against logic.
Oh, I've totally had those moments where my gut's saying one thing, but my head's like, nope, wrong way. And looking back, usually when I ignored my heart, things didn't go so great. But how do we know it's really our heart speaking and not like the ego's counselor or even that inner critic chiming in? They're all giving advice.
That is a great question and something we all struggle with. One clue is that the heart's wisdom, it often comes with this sense of peace, even if it's pushing you towards something tough. It's not about what you want right now, but what aligns with your soul's purpose long term.
So less gimme, gimme, more like a deep down, yeah, this feels right.
Exactly. And honestly, it takes guts sometimes because following your heart might mean going against the grain, taking a leap of faith, things that make the ego nervous.
Which is probably why the inner Billy tries to step in and protect us, huh? Like, whoa, hold on, this feels risky. Let's just stick with what we know.
Exactly. The ego is trying to keep us safe in its own way, even if it means holding us back from our full potential.
That makes me think about all those times I've held myself back from something I really wanted because I was just so afraid. A part of me was trying to protect myself from failing or being disappointed or whatever. But in doing that, I was also stopping myself from experiencing the joy and the fulfillment that comes with actually going after your dreams, you know?
And that is where grace comes in. Grace helps us move through those moments of fear and self-doubt, but with more resilience, more ease, and energy that's available to all of us, no matter what we believe in. It's about acceptance, forgiveness, especially for ourselves, and approaching this whole journey with a bit more compassion.
So not about letting ourselves off the hook for mistakes, but understanding that we're all works in progress.
Exactly. Grace lets us look at our flaws, our moments of weakness, even our failures, without being so hard on ourselves.
I like that. Takes the pressure off a bit, doesn't it? It's like giving ourselves permission to just be human. But if grace is this like transformative energy, how do we actually get more of it? How do we invite it in?
Pay attention to how you're talking to yourself, how you're treating yourself. Are you being kind, compassionate, or are you your own worst critic?
So shifting from that inner critic to more of a supportive, encouraging voice instead of, you messed up.
Exactly. And it goes beyond ourselves, too. When we offer compassion and understanding to the people around us, it creates this ripple effect. We start seeing the world through a lens of kindness, and that changes everything.
This is all making so much sense.
And here's where it gets really cool. When we can bring all those parts of ourselves together, listen to our hearts, manage those egos, that's when we unlock our true potential for growth, for real transformation, recognizing that every part of us, even the messy bits, serves a purpose.
This has been amazing. We've gone from intentional growth to the soul, the ego. I'm feeling super inspired right now.
Me too.
This conversation has reminded me that intentional growth isn't just this far out concept for like spiritual gurus or whatever. It's something each of us can cultivate just by understanding ourselves a bit better. But let's bring this down to earth for a sec. How do we actually put this knowledge into action?
It's like when you're first learning a musical instrument, you know? At first, it feels super awkward, maybe even a little overwhelming.
Oh, totally.
You've got all these different parts, the strings or the keys, breath control if you're on something like a flute, and you're trying to get them all to work together. It takes time, practice.
But eventually it's clicks.
Exactly. It becomes more natural, more fluid.
I love that analogy. So intentional growth, it's less about forcing ourselves to change overnight and more about, like you said, learning to create that inner harmony.
You got it. And just like with music, there's always room to get better, to discover new depths and nuances within yourself. It's a journey.
Totally. You know, I'll admit, when we first started talking about all this, it felt kind of overwhelming, a little abstract. But this conversation, it's really brought it all down to earth for me.